Hi and welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Today we're going to be drawing this little bird. I actually have to look up and see what kind of little bird this is, but I'm drawing outside on a screen porch, so you might hear birds in this video, or maybe some wind, maybe some rain. But I think it's a nice place to draw. So if you have a good spot to draw today, we're going to start off with this little guy. So what we're going to look at first are the shapes that we see. So I see that his head is sort of like an oval. And there's no right or wrong answer to this. It's whatever shapes you see. But I see an oval here. Do you see that oval? So I'm going to start off with an oval for his head. And the reason we're starting off with the shapes is because it makes it easier to decide what size to make him. We'll know if he's too big for the paper or not. And then we'll have some good guidelines to finish the rest of our bird. We can get his body right compared to his head. All those are called proportions. The size of his head compared to his body. We can get all those right when we draw the shapes, and we're drawing them lightly. So you want to draw these shapes lightly. You see I have lots of lines for my oval. That's called sketching. I'm sketching it in very lightly. You can see how easy it is to erase these lines if I need to, which I may want to do that later if they're not exactly where I want them to be. So start with your oval for head. If at any time you need to pause this video, go ahead and pause with each step and then just jump back in later. Okay, so I have his head right here. Now I'm looking at his body. What shape do you see there? I actually, on a lot of birds, I would have said another oval. But look at this guy. To me, he looks so square. Does he look square to you, or like a rectangle rather? If you said oval, that's fine. If you said rectangle, that's good too. It's whatever shape you see. Like I said, there's no right or wrong answer. But I see his body comes out even past like his neck, doesn't it? Comes out a little bit farther. But then this side is in line with the back of his head. So I'm going to make my rectangle come down like this. And to me, I see this rectangle. Try to make my paper straight so you can see that. This line looks slanty. Do you see that? So I'll make this side of my rectangle a little slanty. And then this side's going to be a little wider than his head, a little further out. And it's going to be slanty. Now, if you're wondering just how long you should make that, there is a way to measure your drawing. This is what the word proportion means, getting the sizes right compared to other things. So we're basing it, we drew his head first. So I want to make sure the size of his body is a good size for that head that I drew. So one way to do that is to measure with your pencil. So I'm going to measure, if you see from his beak where it starts to the back of his head, I'm going to hold my fingers there. It's that long. Now, if I had a ruler, that would be handy, but I don't have a ruler. So I'm just going to use my pencil. And now I'm going to measure his body. His body, oh, it's at least that long, plus a little more. Do you see that? So that gives me a good idea of how long to make his body. Oh, look, I made this head about the same size. So if I'm going to measure his body, it's at least that long. If I start down here, at least that long and a little more. I did pretty good at guessing his body size. So however big you make his head, his body should be one head long and a little more. So that's pretty good. And this slants up a little. It's just the log he's sitting on, or the fence post. Maybe it's a fence post. So I'm going to slant that up a little bit. Come right about there. And I might change these lines later, but I've got him on there. Look, he fits on my paper. Actually, I have room for other things over there. So I like his size. I'm going to let him be. So now we can, let's go ahead and add his beak on. Since I'm coming over his head, so we're going to start getting a little more detailed. I'm coming over his head like this. And sometimes it helps if you think of yourself as a little ladybug crawling along this line. And look, I hit the beak. And then I'm going to crawl upward, come to a point, and then back. How long do we make that beak? Well, let's measure his head again. We said his head is from the end of my pencil to right here, right? Do you see that? End of my pencil to here. I'm going to measure his beak using the end of my pencil. It's, can you see it comes from there? It's a little bit shorter than his head. I'll go there, and I'll go a little bit shorter, so maybe right about there. He's got a very long beak. So I come here, I hit this, and now I'm going to crawl up like I'm a little ladybug, and he's sort of crawling, sort of going up a little hill a little bit, aren't you? Because his head is tipped up. I think I might want I think my beak is, I think I want it to go a little bit more up in the air. There we go. I think I like that curve better. But you know what? If your beak isn't tipping up in the air, if your guy isn't tipping his beak up high, that is okay too. Now, look how it goes very tiny. Do you see that very tiny beak? Right there at the end. And then it's going to get wider again. So I got very tiny here. And now I'm going to get wider again. So drawing involves a lot of seeing. You're seeing the shapes. You're seeing how the lines connect. I think my picture's kind of dark, but I think he does have dark, like the bottom beak is dark. So I'm going to leave that thick line there. I was going to erase some of it, but I think that's right. So a lot of drawing is mostly seeing. We're looking for the shapes. We're seeing the shapes. And now we're seeing how they connect, aren't we? Okay. Pause it here if you need a minute to do your beak. And if not, let's keep going. Okay. So now I'm this little bug again. And I'm going to crawl down this front of his, I guess the front of his head here. And I'm just crawling right down there. I'm going to go out just a little bit. And I sort of have that with my rectangle. And then I'm just crawling diagonally. And you know what? I think I did pretty good on my rectangle. I can just follow it. Sometimes I can't follow it very well because my lines are a little off. But I think that one's pretty good. I think my rectangle was pretty good. Okay, now I'm on this side. Crawling right down there. I think that's in a good spot. Then I'm going to come out just a little bit for the wing. And look how that goes. That goes beyond that little edge. I'm going to have to move that edge, I bet. But I'm this little bug crawling. I'm going up a little bit for the wing. I am definitely going to have to move that edge, I think. And the wing sort of comes up a little bit like this. And then back down. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's okay. Look, because the edge does come over the wing a little bit. Maybe that's okay. And if your wing goes over that, it's fine. And then the wing, if we look at the rest of the wing, we did that bump, right? We crawled down here. We did the bump. I crawled down here. I did the bump. Now let's go on this side of the wing. So what we did was we made a hump in his body. That's going to be the wing. But now I need to draw the rest of the wing. I'm going to go up like that. I'm going to go like that. And then I'm going to bring it back down to where I got a little bit stuck down here. So that's what your wing should look like. We have this line here. We don't need that anymore. Let's get rid of that line. But I drew it lightly, so it's not hard to erase. There we go. And we can't really see his feet, at least not in my printout. I don't have the actual picture in front of me, but in this printout, I can't really see them. I think they might be just kind of hidden. I might draw a few toes. Do you know how many toes a bird has in the front? They have 3 toes in the front of each foot. and one toe behind. So I just put some toes there. Okay, we can add some feathers to this. So I see short feathers here, and down here are longer feathers. So I'm just going to, I can just make some short lines showing short feathers to there. There we go. And then down here, I can put in some longer feathers by making longer lines. How's your little bird coming? Pretty good? I bet they're looking great. Okay, right here, where this came in and out, where his head sort of went in, I get like his neck, and then it came out like this to his chest. I see all these dark feathers. Do you see those there? So let's add those. I can see where it goes in and out. And that's where these dark feathers are going to go. And I'm just going to make some dark lines. I'm going to color it very dark. And it starts bigger, and then it gets smaller. Do you see that? That's just his markings. I really should know what kind of bird this is. I am sorry I don't, but I'm going to put it in the description. But he's a very pretty little bird. Okay, then I see this. He's got sort of this mask, doesn't he? And it's long, and it's starting here at his beak, a little bit under his beak. He's got a nostril here. Do you see that on his nose, that spot? And then this dark mask sort of goes like this. And maybe sort of like this. I'm drawing this lightly because I might want to change some of this. I'm just sort of sketching it in. So a couple ways to see if you're getting pretty close is I can look at this white area here. I can compare the white area of that to this white area. And I think that's pretty close. Also the white area of his head as to how much head is left. I think that's pretty close. But you know, I could get rid of these lines. We don't need these lines anymore, do we? There we go. So his eye is right in the mask, isn't it? I'm going to be this little bug. If I'm not quite sure how far to go, I'm going to be a little bug and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to crawl about this far. And his eye comes in right about there. Some birds have very round eyes. This guy's looks a little bit more oval. I see the eye. I see the pupil. The pupil is the black spot in the eye. It's actually an opening in our eye that lets light in. I see a catch light. A catch light is the sunlight reflecting off the eye. Do you see that little white spot? I'm going to be sure to leave that little white spot there. And then he's got a colored eye. I can tell even though my picture is black and white, I can tell because it's gray. So I can add that. And now I'm going to color the rest of this in dark so that makes a nice mask there. So when you color it, it's helpful to think about the little feathers that are making up this dark mask and which direction they'd be going. I think they would be going sort of back this way. And then if we wanted to add more feathers, I probably should get that a little darker. And he's got the dark bottom beak there. And if you wanted to go into more detail, you don't need to, but I see so many feathers on this guy, on his chest. And I can add these. These are little light, small feathers, and you can add them in by just some short lines showing that he's feathery. We don't want to color him too dark because then we would lose the contrast between the light part of his head and body and his dark mask. Although something else you could do if you wanted to, and if you wanted to add more details, you could take some graphite, some of this pencil on your finger, and I could color him in a little bit here, maybe a little bit on top of his head, just by rubbing in. His wing is much darker than his chest, so I can add a little bit of pencil lines to that. And then I could always go back and add some more detail to the stump he's sitting on, which is just like bark, so I'm adding some bark. And so there's my little bird.